Today we're going to talk about some excellent, easy to find alternatives for these highly allocated bottles. Welcome to Average Joe's Whiskey. My name is Joe. Today we're going through 4 excellent alternatives to these highly allocated bottles sitting right over here. So these bottles are generally very hard to find or very expensive. Actually, they're all pretty hard to find and pretty expensive. Unless you can find a Stag at retail price, then that's like 60 bucks, which is an unbelievable deal. But generally, these are all gonna be very hard to find. And generally, they're gonna be pretty expensive too. So I tried to put together a list to give you a attainable, delicious, somewhat similar substitute for each one of these bottles. And I have to say, I think I did a pretty good job, but it doesn't matter what I think. You guys can tell me what you think. Hopefully, this is gonna help out. So the first alternative I'm gonna give you is an alternative to this Willet Purple Top here. So this is an 8-year Willet Purple Top. I actually just opened this recently. This is like a $400 bottle of whiskey. Pretty insane. This one, like I said, 8 years old, comes in at 132.6 proof. And these Purple Tops have a very distinct flavor profile. It's not a typical bourbon palate. It's got these really floral notes that just kind of makes all the Willet products stand out, actually. It's not just the Purple Tops with that real floral profile. Some people call it grain forward. I would call it floral. To me, it's like eating flowers, which doesn't sound real appetizing, but it is good. It's a good whiskey. But anyway, the best alternative I could come up with for the Willet Purple Top is Frey Ranch Farm Strength. So this Frey Ranch is actually a 4-grain bourbon. It's something like 66% corn, and then I think 10% wheat, 11% rye, 12% malted barley. Something very close to that. But this is a very unique bourbon in that it tastes very similar to a Willet Purple Top, or to Willet products in general. And the cask strength is about the closest thing I've found to a Willet Purple Top, personally. So the Frey Ranch, I think, is about 5 years old, maybe 6 years old. I believe their regular shelf staple 90 proof bourbon is 5 years old. So I'm not sure that this cask strength is any older. This bottle comes in at 121.76 proof. They're very accurate with their proof. And let's try it. It's just got that real floral nose, which is typically something I only get from Willet products. It's very reminiscent of a Willet Purple Top. It's not quite as complex. It's not quite as delicious. But if you taste them side by side, you're gonna completely understand what I'm talking about. Even if you don't taste them side by side, if you taste them both at some point in your life, they both have a very memorable palate. And I think you'll see what I'm talking about here. So if you can't find a Willet Purple Top, or you just don't want to pay the price tag for one, and you shouldn't pay the price tag because $400 is freaking insane for a bottle of whiskey. Honestly, this is going to give you a very similar experience. So good job, Frey Ranch, taking on Willet. All right, moving on. Next up is an alternative to this Michter's Barrel Strength Rye here. So Michter's Barrel Strength Rye, they put this out every year. It's a delicious, delicious rye. Comes in at 110 proof, which is Michter's barrel strength. Michter's has I believe the lowest barrel entry proof in the whiskey game, pretty much. I think they put their whiskey into barrels at 103 proof. So it comes out around 110 on the dot in this case. But the Michter's barrel strength is a crazy, delicious rye. It's just expensive and it's hard to find. I believe the retail price on this bottle is around $120, I think. You will typically see them marked up to like $150, $200, often even more than $200. But I have a rye here that is equally delicious, less expensive, and much more attainable. I'm talking about Sagamore 8-year rye. So this Sagamore 8-year is, depending on your area, it's gonna be a lot easier to find than the Michter's Barrel Strength rye. These kind of pop up in my area from time to time. They're not like super available, but they are much easier to find than the Michter's Barrel Strength. I will also say that if you can't find a Sagamore 8-year, Sagamore does have these 7-year barrel picks, which are very easy to find usually. So if you can't find the 8-year, the 7-year is also a great substitute for that Michter's Barrel Strength rye. But right now we're talking about the 8-year. So this is obviously 8 years old. Comes in at 111.4 proof. So very similar proof point to the Michter's. And I have to say, this bottle is unbelievable. Oh my God. Just the candy notes that come off on the nose is unreal. It's got cherry, it's got honey, it's got spice. Just a really warm and inviting nose. Yeah, this Sagamore is almost like a cherry cola or a cherry syrup. It's got some really nice baking spice. I think the Michter's actually gives you more of those traditional rye notes. Like those minty and grassy notes that I usually get from ryes, I get more of those from the Michter's than from the Sagamore. Both of these are very sweet for rye whiskeys, and if you're a big bourbon drinker and you're not super into ryes, honestly, I think either one of these is gonna be a really easy transition for you. Honestly, the Sagamore might be even easier of a transition if you're coming from bourbon than the Michter's is. But both of these are amazing. But the Sagamore, much more available and at a better price. Next up is an alternative for Blanton's Straight from the Barrel. Now, I actually did a video with this bottle recently, and I was so impressed with how it totally kicked Blanton's ass. I'm adding it to this video, talking about K-Luke. So in the double blind tasting that I did, my K-Luke batch 6 absolutely destroyed the Blanton Straight from the Barrel. This one here is a batch 7, which I also really like, but I think these are incredibly wonderful alternatives to Blanton Straight from the Barrel. I'll tell you why. They're similar in proof. The K-Lukes are like 115 to 120 proof. Blanton Straight from the Barrel varies. This is actually a lower proof one. This one's around 120, but they go up to like 130. I guess they even go up to like hazmat level, although I haven't seen any of those. But Blanton Straight from the Barrel, that's obviously Buffalo Trace mash bill number 2, their higher rye mash bill. And K-Luke is a blend of high rye and low rye bourbons. But in all of the K-Lukes that I've tried so far, you get a lot of those rye baking spice notes. And they are just super easy to drink, incredibly flavorful. This thing just smells like it's got layers on top of layers. Jonathan Maisano, he blends these so well. It really is an art form, the way that he does it. You can literally taste the time that he puts into these blends. Cherry and baking spice and oak. Blanton Straight from the Barrel is great, but it's not a super complex bourbon. I feel like from a K-Luke, you get pretty much everything that the Blanton Straight from the Barrel offers, but with some added layers of complexity. This bottle sells for around 150, but you can easily find it marked up for 250, 300, or even higher. K-Luke Small Batch sells for $109.99, and it is available not in every state, but you can order it on Sealbox. So if you order online, this is a bottle that is very easily obtainable. Man, that is just so good. But anyway, Blanton Straight from the Barrel, Hard to find and expensive. K-Luke, not inexpensive, but a hell of a lot easier to find. And arguably better. Last up, we have an alternative to Stag. So I've done alternatives to Stag before, but I recently had a bourbon that I thought is honestly the perfect alternative to Stag. And I'm talking about the Ascot Award-winning Bourbon of the Year, Smoke Eye Hill. So as I'm sure everybody knows by now, this bottle actually beat George T. Stagg in the Ascot Awards Bourbon of the Year competition. While I'm not sure that it's better than George T. Stagg, it is an excellent alternative for regular Stagg. Honestly, there is nothing I don't like about this bottle. So this comes in at 131.4 proof. I don't remember exactly how old it is. It's non-age stated, but I think it's in that 8-year range. Maybe that 6-year range, I'm not sure. But they do age some of it in smaller barrels. I believe the majority of it is aged in 53-gallon barrels, but they do age some of it in 30-gallon barrels to give it a little bit extra oak impact. They also use blue corn, which gives it a little bit of an extra funk to it. I think what most people love about Stag is not just the high proof, but there's nothing off-putting about it. It's just really sweet, super easy to drink, super enjoyable. And I think this Smoke Eye Hill has all of those qualities. The nose presents a little maple syrupy. I feel like I also get some like cotton candy, maybe like a dark cotton candy or like a burnt brown sugar. But it is really sweet. It has a phenomenal mouthfeel, super easy to drink. Delicious. So this is another bottle where the distribution isn't going to be completely cross-country. However, this is another bottle you can purchase on Sealbox. I believe they have it there for $85, which is around MSRP. Plus shipping, of course, but unfortunately, I can't help you with that. Stag will generally retail for around $60, but you are super lucky if you find it at that price. Stags are typically going to be marked up to $150 or $250, sometimes even higher, depending on the state, depending on the store. But both of these are super sweet. Both of them have an excellent mouthfeel. Both are super easy to drink. You get some dark fruit in both of these. I think this is more of like a burnt brown sugar, although the Stag has some of those burnt brown sugar notes. Stag might be a little more fruit forward, while this one feels a little bit more confectionery to me, maybe dark fruits. But both of these excellent whiskeys. Again, the only difference is Stag's hard to find, and Smoke Eye Hill you can find online, at least for now. If it keeps winning awards, we might not be able to find that one before too long. Although, I don't know. The Journeyman Corsets, Whips, and Whiskey won the Ascot Awards Best Whiskey for like 2 years in a row. And I feel like people still don't even realize that it exists. So, I don't know. There you have it, guys. 4 delicious, excellent alternatives to 4 hard to find allocated bottles. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hope you found it helpful. Please hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed, please do that as well. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.